Yeah. Well, I thought I'd like to tackle a little subject today, and you probably think, well, I don't know too much about that, and some people think they do. But anyway, we'll sort of like have a good look at it. You know, you come along and you hear different stories from different people, and unfortunately, a lot of people have the Bible in front of them and still come up with fairy tales. They really do. I mean, you think, where on earth did you get that from? I mean, a couple of years ago, I had a person told me, there's these people called the Nephilim, and they're descended from angels. And if you don't believe in them, you don't believe in the Bible. And I'm thinking, okay, you're telling me these things, let me look it up. I want to find this out myself. And what do I find out? Load of rubbish, right? Nephilim, well, you know what a Nephilim is? Is a person who cuts down trees. It's a tree fella, right? And you look in the original, it tells you that, right? And so you think, well, okay, well, what on earth are they getting at about these Nephilim, these, giant race of people and these giants and all the rest of it? Were there giants? Yes, there were, right? But they weren't Nephilim. Nothing to do with them. And I'll actually prove it. Okay, Numbers 21. We'll go to there today to start. Now, in Numbers, what happens is, what had happened is the children of Israel had crossed the Red Sea, where the wall was on the left and the right of water, and they came into this land, and the Egyptians tried to come after them and they got drowned. And they sort of turned a bit from God, not knowing where they were going, because the same thing applied. They believed a certain thing and it was totally wrong. And then sort of like, just after the incident where Moses made a serpent of brass, you know the one? And people had to look on the serpent and they would be healed. So that's right. And straight after that, pick it up in verse 21. This one, it says, Israel sent messages to Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, now, what?
That's not what we've got up there.
Numbers 21, verse 21. Did I have that wrong? Yeah, there it is. Okay, now there's this chap called Sihon. He's related to another fella called Og. So Og is also part of the kingdom of the Amorites. So Sihon's one fella and Og is the other. Okay, and so Israel, trying to do things peaceably, go up, and they said to him, verse 22, let me pass through your land, and I will not turn into the fields nor into the vineyards. We will not drink of the waters of the well, but we will go along by the king's highway until we be past your borders. So it's just, all they're after is a rite of passage under the leadership of Moses. Okay? So they're in the wilderness area. And Sihon would not suffer Israel to pass through his border, but gathered all these people together and went out against Israel into the wilderness. And he came to Jahaz and fought against Israel. And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword. So you might think, so they got into a bit of a scrap with this group of people, right? And beat them. No big deal, is it? You think? Okay. And it says, and they possessed the land from Arnon to Jabbok, even unto the children of Ammon, for the border of the children of Ammon was strong. And Israel took all these cities, and Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites. Noticed, Israel dwelt in the cities of the Amorites. So Sihon, who's the king of the Amorites, he got absolutely thrashed. So did all these people. Okay. Who had fought against the former king of Moab. They took the cities of the Amorites and Heshbon and all the villages thereof, And so this particular battle that happened, it doesn't say too much about it, except that Israel beat them. Okay, Numbers 22. What does it say? The children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side of Jordan by Jericho. And Balak, the son of Zippor, saw that all Israel had done to the Amorites, and Moab was sore afraid of the people. Why would he be afraid of the fact that Israel had defeated the Amorites? Why? Okay, he was dead scared. And it says, Moab was distressed because of the children of Israel. Moab said to the elders of Midian, now shall this company lick up all that are round about us, as the ox lifts up the grass of the field. And Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of the Moabites at that time. So you think, okay, all right. So this king of the Moabites looks and he sees that Israel has absolutely defeated the Amorites. Now, at the moment, you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't make much sense. So, one group of people fought another group of people. So what? Okay, just buzz over to Amos chapter 2. Going back there in a minute. Okay, Amos chapter 2. Amos chapter 2 and verse 6. Now, God is giving a prophecy against Israel. Thus says the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold the righteous for silver and the poor for a pair of shoes, that pant after the dust of the earth on the head of the poor, and turn aside to seek the way of the meek. And a man and his father will go into the same maid to profane my holy name. And they lay themselves down upon clothes laid to pledge by every altar. And they drink the wine of the condemned in the house of their God. So he's given a pretty bad report of Israel. This is God, okay? Now God reminds them something of what he did. He says, yet I destroyed the Amorite before them, whose height was like the height of the cedars, and he was as strong as the oaks. I destroyed his fruit from above and his roots from beneath. Also I brought you up from the land of Egypt and led you 40 years through the wilderness to possess the land of the Amorite. So before Israel got there, the Amorite people who had the land, they're as tall as a cedar tree and as strong as an oak. You think, really? How tall and how strong were these people? Okay. And so they were pretty big. Okay, go back to Numbers 22. Okay, no, I missed that a bit. Og, Deuteronomy 3. Did I get that one? No, go to Deuteronomy 3. I missed that one. Deuteronomy 3, verse 1. Then we turned and went up to the way of Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us. Now, Og is the other part of the leaders of the Amorites, okay? And the Lord said to me, fear them not, for I will deliver him and all his people and his land into your hand. And you shall do unto him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon. So you got these two associated people. They're both Amorites, and you got Og and Sihon. Okay, so the Lord delivered into our hands Og also, the king of Bashan, and all his people, and we smote him until none left to him remaining. And we took all these cities at that time. There was not a city which we took not from them. 70 cities of the region of Argob, the kingdom of Og in Bashan. All right? Yeah, so, okay, fine. They took hold of that. What more's got to say about it? Okay, verse 11. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Okay? So he was a big guy. The remnant of the giants, he was the king of them. Right? Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. This is his bed. And it says 9 cubits was the length thereof. So that's roughly 15 feet. Right? So you can imagine this guy, Goliath, he was 9.5. This guy's 15 feet, but his width across his shoulders was 4 cubits or 6 feet. So this particular king, Og, is that far across the shoulders and way over double my height. Okay, so he'd have to duck his head to get underneath the top beam there. So, and yet God said to the children of Israel, don't forget the children of Israel had just come out of the land of Egypt, crossed through the Red Sea, and God had said to them, through Moses, take the land, destroy the people. And because they'd seen the Red Sea open up for themselves, they, I don't care how big and tall he is, they had that attitude and they went after him, right? And so basically they got killed, right? And yet sometime later, 40 years later, they come up and God says, now I want you to go in and take the land. We can't go in there. Anyway, doesn't matter. Back to Numbers 22. That was a part I wanted to get to. Why? Numbers 22. What did I say? What? I don't know. No? Okay, well, the two that were spared, God told them not to touch them, was the Moabites and the Ammonites, right? Not the Amorites, the Ammonites. Why? They were both descendants of the children of Lot. Yeah. That's another story. I didn't want to get into that. But they did. Okay. So we go to Numbers 22 and verse 22. And it comes into the story now, so you can understand why this Balak character was not prepared to attack Israel. Because if you've seen like the people at your border, which are around about 14 feet tall, right? If you'd seen them demolished by Israel without Israel sort of breaking a sweat about it, you think, I'm not going to tackle that lot. So his first thought is, okay, I'll get this fella called Balaam to come up and put a curse on these people so I can actually tackle them and defeat them, right? And so God goes, now I don't know or understand about this Balaam. He wasn't an Israelite, and he wasn't of the Amorites or anything else like that. He's just some individual that somehow he'd had this ability that if he put a curse on people, they would be cursed. And if they put a blessing on people, they'd be blessed. And so Balak, he's the king of the Moabites, right? He wanted to use this guy so he would feel safer by attacking him, because he never had a company of giants with him, right? And it says, where was I? Verse 22. God's anger was kindled because he went. This is him going to talk to Balak. And the angel of the Lord stood in the way for an adversary against him. And he was riding upon his ass, and his 2 servants were with him. And the ass saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand. And the ass turned aside out of the way, and he went into the field, and Balaam smote the ass to turn her into the way. So here's Balaam sitting on his donkey, and the donkey sees something. The donkey says, I'm not going that way, and turns off. So Balaam gets out his stick and starts to beat his ass, the donkey, right? And the angel of the Lord stood in the path of the vineyards, a wall being on this side and a wall on that side. When the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she thrust herself into the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, and he smote her again. And the angel of the Lord went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn, either to the right hand or to the left. When the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she fell down under Balaam, and Balaam's anger was kindled, and he smote the ass with a staff. So here's the donkey trying to do the right thing, and he kept beating it with a stick. And the Lord opened the mouth of the ass. Now, we've all heard donkeys speak, haven't we? No? No? Well, I'm so afraid I haven't either. No. I watched a movie about it, really old black and white one. Anyway, the Lord opened the mouth of the ass, and she said to Balaam, "What have I done to you that you have smitten me these 3 times? So 3 times you beat me with a stick. Why?" Right? Now, any normal, sensible person would be going, "Hang on a minute, I'm not supposed to be talking to donkeys." But he was. He was that angry. Right? And he says, 29, Balaam said to the ass, "Because you've mocked me, I would there were a sword in my hand, for now I would kill you." I'm thinking, goodness me, the poor little donkey's only trying to save his life. And the ass said to Balaam, "Am I not your ass, upon which you have ridden since I was yours unto this day? Was I ever to do so to you? Did I ever hit you with a stick?" And he said, now come on, we all know the words, "Nay." Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam. But the whole thing that it's getting at, right, God said, "These are my people and they are blessed." Okay? And no matter how Balaam tried to go and bypass what God was telling him, right, he couldn't curse Israel. So finally, I think this, at this point, if you had a rifle, I'd shoot Balaam, because what he did is he conspired using his own mind, or probably with the inspiration of Satan, and he told Balak how to destroy Israel. And how did he do that? Send the young girls out to play the harlot. Right? And so that's what happened, is Israel went into whoredom. Okay? So you sort of think to yourself, well, come on guys, wake up to it. Why is this story in the scriptures like that? And why have you got to work it out? It's because for you to understand that here's a chosen people of God, and you have an enemy that's very sneaky, and he wants to destroy you. Okay? And the way that he can do it is he can't turn around and get you cursed. That's ridiculous. Right? It's not going to happen. You can't be a cursed Christian. Why do I say that? Because Jesus himself said, "Cursed is everyone that is hung on a tree." He took the curses that should be upon you, upon himself. Okay. But here in this one, it's gives the illustration that whoever it is behind the scenes is going to try at us, right? To try and finish us off before we get to the point, right, of meeting the Lord in the air. So there really is, this whole thing is sort of going behind the scenes to say, okay, this is what's happening. Go to Isaiah chapter 8. And you can see this today. Isaiah 8 and verse 9. It says, "Associate yourselves, O you people, and you shall be broken in pieces." So God gives out a warning. You want to join and associate yourself? You're going to be broken. "Give ear, all ye far off countries. Gird yourself, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces." No matter which way you try to actually get together to solve something, you're going to get broken in pieces. "Take counsel together, and it shall come to naught. Speak the word, and it shall not stand, for God is with us. For the Lord spoke thus to me with a strong hand, and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people, saying." In other words, there's all these people trying to do what? Get together for what? Associate for what? And it says, verse 12, say ye not a confederacy. What's that? The word confederacy means an alliance. Are you not seeing the people together, getting allied today, an alliance together? Let's solve the world's problems with an alliance. Right? To all them that to this people say a confederacy or an alliance, neither fear their fear nor be afraid. Don't get worried about it. The Lord our God has got things in control, just as it did in the days of Balaam and all those. Right? And it says, look at the whole thing. Sanctify the Lord of hosts himself, and let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. Don't worry about us and the people trying to join together, right? Just worry about our God with us. Okay. And it says, and he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling and for a rock of offence, both to the houses of Israel, and a gin and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Many among them shall stumble and fall and be broken and be snared and be taken. Bind up the testimony, seal the law amongst my disciples, and I will wait upon the Lord that hides his face from the house of Jacob, and I will look for him. Behold, I and the children whom the Lord has given me are for signs and for wonders in Israel from the Lord of hosts which dwells in Mount Zion. When they shall say to you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits, unto wizards that peep, that mutter, should not a people seek to their God? For the living, seek to the dead? Do we do that? No. To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it's because there is no light in them. And they shall pass through, hardly bestead and hungry, and it shall come to pass that when they shall be hungry, they shall fret themselves and curse their king and their God, and look upwards. And they shall look into the earth and behold trouble and darkness, dimness of anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness. So you're looking at a people very similar to Balaam's group, the Moabites. By the way, in the finish, they all get destroyed, you know, and because they're not seeking out the Lord for a solution. They're seeking out wizards, people that are going to give curses, so on and so forth, right? Okay, 2 Peter, bit of the New Testament. Second Peter, chapter 2. And verse 11. And he says, whereas angels, which are greater in power and might, bring not railing accusation against them before the Lord. These are people that want to walk against the Lord, right? But these, as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption. So you want to come up with fairy tales and stories, best of luck. Well, I don't think there would be best of luck to that. It's sort of, you're going against God's word. If someone tells you something from the scriptures, look it up for yourself. You know, it's there, right, for you to understand. And they shall receive the reward of their unrighteousness, as it counts pleasure to riot in the daytime, spots are of blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceivings while they feast with you. Having eyes full of adultery, they cannot cease from sin, beguiling unstable souls, a heart that they have exercised with covetous practices, cursed children, which have forsaken the right way and have gone astray, following the way of Balaam, the son of Bosor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness. What was he after? He kept going back to Balak saying, oh, let me see what God's got to say again. Oh, let me see what God's got to say. Once should have been enough. If God said, don't do it, don't do it. Right? That's the word of the Lord to you. Now you want to argue all the time with God and say, look, well, can you change your mind? Because I'm going to get a lot of money out of this. I'm going to get promoted to this, that, and everything else, right? And he loved the wages of unrighteousness, right? He was rebuked for his iniquity, the dumb ass speaking with a man's voice to forbid the madness of the prophet. He didn't even take notice of that. How mad and insane it is that the voice of a man was coming out of the donkey. He didn't get it, right? God was trying to warn him, you're going down the wrong way, buddy, and you'll cop it, right? And what does he say? These are wells without water, clouds that are carried with a tempest, to whom the mist of darkness is reserved forever. So you know what happened with Balaam. For when they speak great, swelling words of vanity, they allure through the lust of the flesh those with much wantonness, and those that were clean escape to them who live in error. While they promised them liberty, they themselves are the servants of corruption. Careful of what you're listening to, right? It could be fed to you the wrong stuff. For of whom a man is overcome, the same as he brought into bondage. For if after they have escaped the pollutions of the world through the knowledge of the Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ, they are again entangled. So in other words, it's a warning. He's given a warning. It says, and overcome. In other words, you're falling into line with the world. The latter end is worse for them than the beginning. For it had been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than after they have known to turn from the holy commandment delivered to them. But as it has happened unto them, according to the true proverb, the dog is turned again to his own vomit, and the sow that was washed through her wallowing in the mire. So the Lord is saying, right, I've taken you out of the world, I've cleaned you up, and we should understand that this is us. We've been taken out of the world, been cleaned up. We're separated from all these people like Balaam and all those others that are only interested in material gain, right? That is not our calling anymore, right? And so chasing that sort of thing, you're only going to finish up, as it says there, you're like a dog returning to its vomit. Matthew 23. Jesus had to go so that we should understand. He had to go to the leaders of churches or the leaders of religion. So in his days, he had, of course, the two main types, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. 23, verse 1. Matthew 23, verse 1. Then spoke Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. What does that mean? It means these religious leaders are giving you the law of God to live by. That's what you live by. That's fine. This is Old Testament law. Okay. Under the Old Testament, that's what you live by. And he said, also, therefore, verse 3, whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not after their works, for they say and do not. So when you think about it, that's absolute hypocrisy. You know, they sort of come along and they're telling you they represent a person that believes wholly in the Bible, and can't you see that I'm dressed appropriately? I have my long gown on and my bits and pieces and so on and so forth, right? But what's happening? Inside, they're saying and telling you to do things, but they won't do it themselves. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for to be seen of men, and they make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the uppermost rooms at the feasts and the chief seats in the synagogue, and greetings in the marketplace to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi, or teacher, teacher, or master, master. Be not called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and you are all brethren. So that means to say that what Jesus was saying, there's no rank structure in his kingdom. We're all children of the living God, right? Aren't we? Right? And it says, call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Okay, we got that. So we're not allowed to go and call people Father Bob or Father this or Father that. It's directly against Christ's teachings, isn't it? And it says, or even pastor. Same thing, it's a title on a person, right? And it says, but he that is greatest among you shall be your servant, and whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that humbles himself shall be exalted. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of the heaven against men. You neither go in yourselves, and neither suffer or allow them that are entering to go in. In other words, by your example, you're not going in yourself, and you're preventing other people that come in inquiring of how to get into heaven. You're giving them rubbish, and they think, well, if that's the way it works, I'm not sure if I want to go. You know, because that's not the way the Lord wanted. You know, you hear stories at the moment. Muslims are actually investigating Jesus. They're hearing stories and they're actually looking and they're saying, well, that's not what Muhammad's all about. Muhammad's saying, you know, if you don't believe, we'll kill you. Right? And Jesus is not like that at all. And there are, from what I hear, loads and loads of Muslims turning to Christ, which is different, isn't it? Wait and see how all that fits. You ever tried to witness to a Muslim? I haven't yet. Anyone done that? You have, David?
They get angry.
Oh, okay. You hit a raw nerve, have you? Okay. Okay. And so he goes on to explain the whole thing. You're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. And it's sort of like, you're doing, like verse 23, you scribes and Pharisees, you pay tithe of meat, mint, aniseed and cumin, whatever for. You've omitted the weightier matters of the Lord, judgment, mercy and faith. These you ought to have done and not leave the other undone. You blind guides which strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. And so and then he goes on to say, well, you clean the outside of the plate, you make it look pretty good. Well, what about the inside with all the scraps on it? Okay. And then he goes on in verse 27, what does he say? He says, you are like whited tombstones. You are like, which indeed appear outward beautiful, but inside full of dead men's bones. So you sort of think to yourself, okay, go by what Jesus taught. How do we approach ourselves? We don't sort of follow along those sorts of things. You know, like Balak tried to promote Balaam with all sorts of honour and everything else, which he was really interested in. I'll get promoted to maybe the second ruler in the land, and I'll be, under the king on this particular country and all the rest of it. It's not about chasing promotion and everything else like that. It's about following the Lord. And if the Lord said, don't curse the people, don't go and talk to the king, that should have been the end of it. Right? And here the Lord is saying, okay, this is how things are developing today. Right. Okay, Job 40, and I think I might finish in there. I'll go back where Tom finished. I love it. If you ever read through Job, it's an amazing book. Because when you get to around about Job, I wasn't going to go through it all, but just a part of it. Verse 38 chapter 38 right through to the end. You know, God is actually talking to Job. That should be in red, all those words, right? But so he turns around and he explains to him things. And he says, can you tell me what's the marks on a man's hand that everyone may know his works? Anyone work that out? Fingerprints, right? So here's God is saying, tell me what about those marks on people's hands are. And they had no idea of fingerprints when that was written. Okay. And so it goes on to tell you all sorts of things. And it says, I like one here. Can you send lightnings or use electricity that they may go and say unto you, here we are. What do we use that for? Telephones, right? And he's talking about this in one of the oldest books in the Bible. Anyway, go on. We're getting sidetracked. Good homework. Read Job, the last 3 chapters. Okay, and it says Job 40 and verse 6. Then answered the Lord and said to Job out of the whirlwind and said, gird up your loins now like a man. I will demand of you, and you declare unto me. In other words, I want you to explain to me something. Okay. Will you disannul my judgment? Will you condemn me that you may be righteous? Are you going to try and stand before me and condemn me so that you can be righteous? And people are doing that today, right? They're coming out with false messages and false things that God has supposed to have said. But what they're doing is saying, they're condemning God. They're saying, well, God is supposed to have said this. And he's going, no, he didn't. He didn't say anything like that, right? Do you have an arm like God? Or can you thunder with a voice like him? Now, I've never heard God's voice thunder. I have heard God's voice, but not like thunder. Pretty loud, but not that loud. And it says, where was I? God. Yeah, 10. Deck yourself now with majesty and excellency, and array yourself with glory and beauty. Cast abroad the rage of your wrath. Can you get angry with something that actually it affects way out of your sight? And behold, everyone that is proud and abase him. Can you do that? Everyone, can you imagine doing that when God says, it's enough? And all the proud people all over this planet are going to get abased. Look on everyone that is proud and bring him low. Can you do that? Can you look on everyone that is proud and you bring them low? No, you can't. God's the only one that can do that. And tread down the wicked in their place, and God will do that too. Wherever the wicked is, he'll finish him. And hide them in the dust together and bind in their faces in secret. Then, if you can do all this sort of stuff, then will I confess unto you that your own right hand can save you. In other words, can your own right hand bring you back from the dead? Can you do that? No. And it says, so all these things that God has mentioned, particularly in the book of Job, he's given instructions right through his word on how things fit together. You know, we do not need to make fairy tales out of it. I mean, our God is an amazing God. I mean, you're seeing now, if you can have a look and you can see the size of some of these skeletons that they're digging up now. They are huge. So the Bible's right. Pardon? Look on YouTube. They'll show you. They'll show you where all these ones are. Oh, I know. Okay, fair enough. Okay. But they are there. I mean, you can see where they have actually found these skeletons, and some of them are gigantic. Yeah. Oh, you got some there now. You got them there? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So now you know who the Amalekites are. Any questions on that? No? Well, that's good. Oh, yes, John, I knew one would come from you.
I just noticed here in Numbers 24.
Numbers 20. Hang on.
I haven't seen this before.
Numbers 24.
Numbers 24, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go on. 24, yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's when Balaam said about how God is blessing. Yep.
So Balaam was into divination.
Yeah, of course.
He could talk to God, and he also went to the dark side.
Correct. I'd work that one out. Yeah. And it notices at the same time, it's sort of like, he went into a sort of bit of a trance about it.
See, he saw, other times he sought for enchantments.
Yep.
So he spoke to God, but he also went to the dark side.
I know.
So he had like a dual spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Not good. Not good. We have no idea some of those things that went on back there, you know, and I don't really want to know. But yeah, not good.
You have people like that today.
We do. But you know, the whole thing is, here we are coming up to the end of the age. And we've got people like that, like you point out, that are out there now. And I sort of think to myself, well, come on, guys, wake up. It's like I read to you. Do you think your own arm is going to help you by your own strength? Do you think that your opinion matters? Doesn't, you know? You might sort of try all sorts of things. You might be the biggest, richest man on the planet. But you've got to face God, don't you? Amen?